Stop.
Couple like that. Why don't you go one? My name is Leah Lassiter, and today at the discussion panel we will be discussing Disney and sports, and I'm sure it will correlate to other things, but I'd like to introduce my panel. This is Philip Curry. He will be starting grad classes in the fall. You guys can introduce yourself.
I'm Julia Carlo.
I'm Tom Johnson.
Three of us are in this class, and Philip has a lot to add because he is in the communication area. So we're going to get started by talking about Disney. So Disney started out with using animals in the animation feature to discuss social issues, like as far as like Mickey Mouse and all them. If you look back at the older Disney, they talked about social issues without really kind of confronting them. What do you guys think about that? Like as far as using animation to discuss. Like I know in the class we talked about like the animated family and like Family Guy and all that stuff, and how it's okay for them to say, make racial jokes and all that because it's not as harsh.
Yeah, Disney has utilized animation for years to address some things. Dumbo, bullying. Some prejudice were attached with it. The magpies that were the biggest bullies were African American.
And I think they kind of amplified the stereotypes against, because they had them have bigger beaks and darker colors, and then the way they talked to each other. What was something that you saw in the way they talked that really kind of stood out?
It was definitely just like the way they looked and the way they just acted. It was more on the racist side, pretty much. Yeah, that's how it was.
And I think a lot of the reasons, like the discussion we have today, is how racially insensitive those were.
Yeah, and I think when we look at them in that context, I think it was a way to try and address the issues of racism that were occurring at the time, but to not do it so outwardly, and that it could be presented and people may or may not have been aware of what they're trying to represent.
The first African American that received entertainment honor was as its best supporting actress. Okay, she was the best supporting actress. She was the maid from Gone with the Wind. It was by creating that and personifying that stereotype, she gained recognition from white mainstream society.
And so it's kind of like we only want to use a little bit of, we're like, okay, well we can't talk about it, but if you do a good job portraying it, we'll reward you.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So, and that's kind of like, those are the signs and symbols that people read in, like, they'll be like, oh, well, no, she was the first one, but we have to look at the role she portrayed
Yeah.
that earned her that. And so, kind of like going back to Disney, we see now where they came from. Like you mentioned, Snow White was the first Disney princess, and now we have an Indian princess, which they named her an Indian princess finally. And then we have Tiana, our first African American princess. And to me, I think there was a lot of symbolism in, not only was she the first one, but she was based out in New Orleans. So I think Disney kind of has that on the social issues. And not only was she the first African American, she was also one of the first princesses who wasn't just in it for love. She wanted to continued
to make her own money,
Mhm.
work and get her own place. Like she wanted to work hard to do all that. She didn't even care about a man at all.
Exactly. And I think it's funny how, even though she had those goals, it still was a love story. She achieved her dreams, but she also got the man.
And I think Disney's tried to transition to that idea in a lot of their more recent films, because you see the same thing in movies like Mulan. It wasn't originally about the man, but that was a common theme throughout the film of how she had to change and adjust to earn love and be respected by her family. And then even in Brave, where she doesn't end up with a man, a lot of the themes that run through it are how to be a good wife, and how to capture a man.
Respectful and.
Well, it was
And that's the
act a certain way,
expectation.
yeah.
the whole conflict between her mother and her, where she didn't want to fulfill those roles,
Right.
but her mother wanted her to.
And you see, the thing that I see in Brave, the text that you see behind the sub curtain is her mother. She thought her mother hated her because she wouldn't fulfill those roles. And that's, young girls today, they see that and they're like, well, does my mom hate me because I won't feel this, or I won't be the perfect daughter, or I won't, especially with all the sexual identification and stuff, those peer pressure are behind those. Like, I think Disney addresses those, but it still is kind of like, well, it's there.
Right, and I think they were also, I think they left it open that she still needed to find a man, but it had to be the right man. Because the men that she was supposed to be arranged, or the marriage she was supposed to be arranged to, they were men that didn't fit her criteria. But the expectation was that down the road, she was still expected to become a wife.
To be married.
I think in Mulan, one of the things that get me are, she also did kind of a gender performance. Like, it wasn't as in your face as, say, Ursula was in Ariel, but she had to do the song, act like a man, she had to climb, she had to portray this masculine ideal to be successful. And it's just like, in our leaders today, as far as like women in politics, if they cry, they are not down. If they show they want a strong jawline, they want all the signs of masculine, because that's what we equate to power. And I think that's what Disney kind of does too, is they equate that even though you may have your own dreams, finding that man is your power.
And I think you also look at especially at the evil witches, or the evil queens, that you'll see some of those ideals presented in them. I was reading an article when we were doing a discussion about The Little Mermaid, that there are common characteristics between all of the evil queens. Well, they're not necessarily ugly. They're all older and all with very strong jawlines and strong angular features.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of
Like
presents them more manly, and that associates with power, which all of them do, but it also contributes to the idea, like you said, that having those features and those characteristics of assertiveness and aggressiveness equates to being outcast in some respect. And it's the same thing with our politics today. But we talk about Hillary Clinton, I think Ronna talks about it as well as the article with Little Mermaid, that being that type of woman in politics today puts you on the fringe, that you're seen as too aggressive.
Well, Hillary, the thing about the mouse to the mermaid, okay, was looking at Hillary pre-Monica. Okay, pre-Monica, Hillary had a very feminist stance and a very polarizing to the feminist liberal stance. When the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky broke out, and she stood by her man, as many pundits put it,
She was attacked.
yeah, she lost a lot of the feminist liberal following. But some of the conservatives softened to Hillary at the same time because she showed her feminine qualities of standing by her man.
Well, now that you bring up Mouse to Mermaid, the reading we did in class, it kind of goes with what I got from it, which was she had to give up who she was, what she stood for, everything she'd ever known to get this man. Just kind of like Hillary had to give up her feminist kind of stance and all that support to stand by her man. So it's like we have to give up one thing or the other. We have to lose face in some way to save face. So like in The Little Mermaid, she had to give up, and even though some people see it as, like, oh, she wanted her true love, the way that it was explained in the article of her trying to come to this white male privileged society, she had to give up everything that was her. I mean, her fin that made her a mermaid. She had to give up her family and go with someone she met once that she'd fallen in love with just from the way she had to lose her voice. She wasn't able to use, which is basically her smarts and her knowledge, but she was able to use her body
Right.
and nonverbal cues,
Her
which I think,
sexuality.
yeah, her sexuality and nonverbal cues to win the love of someone. And I think that's kind of a strong message that we send out to young women. And even though this was 20 years in a different, in a different setting and a different time, it's still a message. People still see that today and are like, oh, I would do anything for true love. I will change who I am for true love. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about in this book is the critique of it. Like, is she just wanting this true love? Like, is this really love at first sight? Or are we expecting our young women to aspire to marriage, to aspire to that kind of mindset? You have to change who you are for him to love you. And it's okay. You won't be respected if you stay the strong Ursula, knows what she wants the power. But even then, because she was a strong female lead, they gave her, as they called it in the reading, penis envy, because she wanted to rule the ocean, because she was outcasted.
She wanted to be on the same level as a man. She wanted to be on the same level as King tried to be. She wanted his power to be seen as equal, to be able to rule. And, in that respect, that is the way they portrayed it as penis envy, is that she wanted to be in a man's world, just as much as Ariel did, but in a different context.
And see, like, that wasn't even something I thought of, her wanting to be in the man's world just like Ariel. So I guess they had more similarities than what I originally thought.
Yeah. It's just, she was willing to become the bitch to be in the man's world. Ariel was a subservient to get to the same place.
But we just have to, my thing with Disney is we have to look at what's behind the veiled context of the whole movie aspect. Like, even in Frozen, I think Frozen was revolutionary for young women because she thought she fell in love at first, like love at first sight. And then, instead of just jumping into marriage, her sister kind of stood up to that. No, you don't know this person. Like, you can't love at first sight. You may think this. And then she had to travel through and do all this stuff. And in the end, it's not even about love. It's her sister saves her, not true love, which was, true love has always been equated to a man loving a woman.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
The true love sister. And I think that that was a great thing for our children, even though I'm tired of hearing Let It Go. I think it was a huge step for Disney to say, love doesn't always, true love doesn't have to be between a man and a woman. It can be, true love is so vast it has no gender reference.
Yeah, that really started with Brave, because it was a daughter's love for her mother was the real true love, family love. Okay, having family love. These two siblings, it's when they found their love for each other that she is cured. And the whole land is cured because they find true love for each other. It's still true love, but it doesn't have to be with a spouse. I love the fact that in Frozen there's so many things that are, one, the first guy starts out to be a pretty good guy. But then, because of the capitalist influence of the Baron, I can't think of his name right now, he starts to turn into a bad guy. He sees where he can gain power and influence the capitalism side of things. The guy, the goofball guy, turns out to be the really good guy.
Sven.
Kristoff.
Oh, Kristoff, yes.
Sven is the reindeer. He's a pretty good guy too. They go into, the first time I watched it, I missed this, was when they go to the Trapper Shack, and it's a gay couple.
I didn't know it was a gay couple. I know that.
Shows a man with 3 kids in the sauna.
Oh, yeah.
That was the wife.
I think someone go out.